What's going on, everybody? It's your guy Realistic here, and I'm doing another tutorial for SoundOracle.net. And in this tutorial, what we're going to be going over is how to use multi-band compressors on your vocal chain. And this one was actually the winner of the poll that we had last week on our YouTube page. So if you're not already, be sure to subscribe. That way you can vote on the tutorials that you want to see each week. All right, so let's check out what we all kind of dealing with today. We're dealing with multi-band compressors and why we should be using them on vocals and what they can help with. So as you've been seeing a lot of my tutorials before, what I like to do is the first thing I like to do is show you real quick if you just want to get in and get out with the information without having to sit through all the details. I'm going to show you that real quick, and then for everybody else that wants to stick through, I'll actually go through why we did this. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to search for something in the lower mid-range, and we're going to search for something in the higher mid-range here, and we just want to compress down frequencies that are getting a little bit too much thumpy down here, and a little too just too much of a resonance in there. And then up here, what we want to do is we want to compress down things that have a little bit too much harshness. And so those are the things that we want to get rid of, and we want to do about a -3 dB range, and we're going to do a fairly fast attack and fairly fast release, and we only want to do a gain reduction by about 2 or 3 dB. We don't want to do too much. Sometimes we might need to help out the de-esser a little bit, and so we might add a little bit up in this higher range too, just to help some of the S sounds that are getting a little too harsh. But usually our de-esser can handle that, but sometimes we might want to also have the multi-band compressor help out a little bit. All right, so now if you do want to know how the details work on this process, let's dive in and I'll show you that. All right, so like I said, there's only 2 or 3 places that we really want to use the multi-band compressor on with the vocals. But I also want to tell you why we want to use a multi-band compressor. And the reasons are it allows you to just compress certain frequencies versus a regular compressor will compress the entire frequency spectrum of that vocal take. This will just compress one thing. The other thing is it will only compress when we exceed that threshold, versus if we were to EQ things out, it's going to EQ it for the entire take of the track. So the multi-band compressor allows it that only when the EQ, or only when the frequency reaches this threshold, it will push it down. And so what that does is it basically in a way lets us EQ a voice without removing the characteristics in their voice for the whole song. And yes, I did say EQ, not compress, on purpose, because multi-band compressing is kind of in a way like a little form of EQ, because we're just taking a certain frequency and we're gonna take that and we're gonna manipulate that and we're gonna press that down a little bit. So those are the benefits of using a multi-band compressor. So now I'm gonna show you what areas that we want to target and why we want to target them. So we got this vocal take here, and it's something that I'm using this because this is a loop that we actually use on this song, and it's from the EXO loop pack. So you can check that out. If you want to watch the full video, you can watch that right there. All right, so let's check this little track out, and then I'll show you what we do.
My bed, yeah. Sing, seems smarter in my head. Green hair looking like a Sprite can. On God's path with a bike, yeah. Always got dirt on my white Vans. Girl, I'm off track.
Okay, so vocals sounding pretty decent here. I like it. It's just there's a couple little things that we could do to make the mix even better. And you'll also see where I have my multi-band compressor in my chain. I have it fairly at the end here because what I'm doing here is, I got my auto-tune first. That should always be first if you're using auto-tune. And then I'm doing a little bit of cutting. We can get rid of that. And then I'm doing a little bit of compressing. And then I'm going to do my de-essing next here. I got 2 forms because there's 2 areas I like to de-ess. I can do a video on that too if you ever want to see why I use 2 de-essers. All right, and then I finally have my multi-band compressor. After that, I have a little bit of boosting EQ, and then I have a little bit of EQ just cutting all of this processing that's coming after that first cut. So I chose that because what I want to do is I want to let the EQ cut some stuff out, and and I also want the de-essers to be able to handle some of the issues first. And also the compressor itself right here, the actual compressor, not the multiband, is going to create a tone, and so I do want to compress some of that tone down a little bit, and so that's why I have it in this chain. There are no rules in this, so if you want to put this somewhere else in your chain, go for it. But this is how I do my chain. So if you like how I do my chain, that's how I do it. And you can copy that if you want. All right, so let me show you here what we're looking for. So the first thing I like to do is I like to find this area down low here, because there's a thump sometimes, and there's a little bit of this sound in that area, and I want to push that down a little bit so it doesn't become too muddy. And I also find that when I do that, the vocal clashes with the bass or the 808 a lot less.
Track, had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat.
So this is an area where I like to solo the vocal, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo the frequency so we can really search for what we're looking for.
Track, had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text.
So you kind of hear how that right there is a little muddy, and it's got, you know, a little bit deeper stuff going on there. There's like some resonating, you know, thump going on in there. That's the area that I want to compress down a little bit here. So let's check that out, and I might actually increase this band a little bit.
Track, had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text, yeah. Then I send it right back. If you got bass, then you know I might slap. Ain't a track.
So I'm only reducing it by 3 dB here. I got the range at 3 dB, because here's the thing. I'll show you if I do too much, it's gonna really pump it, and it's really gonna take some characteristics out of here that we don't want to be gone.
Track, had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back.
So that might be a little too much, because we lose some of the body and richness of the vocal.
Track, had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat.
All right, and then so as far as attack and release here, what we're going to do is we're going to set this to be a little bit faster of attack, because we want it to compress it down right away. We don't want it to be prolonged, so we want to catch that right away and get rid of that, so it's fighting with the bass a lot less instantly. All right, and now as far as release, you kind of have to, you know, use your ears, use your eyes a little bit, and kind of time it. It takes a little bit of time, but what I like to do is I try to set the release to the rhythm that his voice is going. That way the release isn't lasting too long, because you know, we'll start to get these weird in and out fades or this pumping feeling, and if it's too fast, then we're not going to get the full effect that we want. So let's kind of dial that in and see where we can go.
Track, had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text, yeah. Then I send it right back. If you got bass, then you know I might slap. Ain't a track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you.
So you can hear when he says back and tat, you know, those are kind of the ending of his cadences there. That's when it's releasing up. So we kind of timed it to where it can release on that, and so it stays within rhythm of the song, so the listener isn't getting thrown off, or the listener can't even tell what's going on, because we don't want them to be able to tell that there's this pumping compression going on. So that's the first area. Now the other area I like to look for is this harsh area. It's usually going to be in the range of 2 to 3K, somewhere in there. And that's, again, why I like this solo mode. So let's check that out here. And I tend to go a little bit more narrow on this one, just because there's a really certain frequency that I'm looking for. So let's solo that out and find it. It's going to be kind of a harsh sound that we're looking for.
Then I send it right back. If you got bass, then you know I might slap. Ain't a track. Had to let me vent.
So you can hear right there that we got a little bit of that buzziness. There's a little harshness in there, and so that's the area that we want to compress down a little bit. So let's go ahead and unsolo this band here, and we'll adjust this, and we'll compress that down a little bit.
Track, had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text, yeah. Then I send it right back. If you got bass, then you know I might slap. Ain't a track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text.
Okay, and so we kind of did the same thing here. Is we had a pretty close range there. This one I want to around 4, and then we have a fast attack and kind of a fast medium release here that we timed it with his cadences doing here, and then we're just kind of getting it so we're reducing usually only about 2 to 3 dB.
Track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with.
And what's really nice about this too is it's only gonna reduce by 3 dB when it's like really kind of resonating, getting up there. Versus a lot of the times we're compressing by almost less than 1 dB for a lot of the tracks, so it can go unnoticed for a lot of it, and we can maintain that characteristic of that 2 to 3K because a lot of times there's a nice little bite in there, especially for modern vocals. So we don't want to just make that disappear.
Track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run.
And you can see too, these are doing 2 different things, and that's another reason why I like multi-band compressors. This one right here is getting a little bit more aggressive, where it's pushing down a lot more, and this one is a little bit more tame and a little bit more forgiving, and so that's what I really like about that option. And speaking of which, something else that I might do for this is on a track like this, for the higher part here where I want to maintain some of that, I might do a little bit softer of a knee. The knee is going to just allow us to choose how forgiving the compressor is. When it's a softer knee, the compressor will bend a little bit, right? But when it's a harder knee, the compressor won't really give much. It will just kind of push down a little bit. So for this area in this 2 to 3K range, I'm going to give it a little bit softer of a knee, so the compressor is a little bit more forgiving when it hits that initial threshold. And then right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with a little bit harder of a knee, so it's kind of more solid and pushes that down right away when it exceeds the threshold.
Track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think.
All right, and the last thing I might do is I might change the ratio here. I might change that on this one. That's the around the 2.6K. I might change that to 3-to-1. That way, for every 3 dB that we got going in, we got 1 dB coming out. And I'll keep this lower one here at 4-to-1. That way, for every 4 dB that goes in, 1 dB is coming out. Because again, I do want this area to compress a little bit more and just be a little bit more aggressive with that compression, because that tends to be the area that's going to fight a lot with some of that low end information, and we really don't want to have that clashing, especially for modern vocals.
Track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming.
All right, and so on this track, we might not need it, but let's go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. So I do have 2 de-essers here kind of going on, but there might be some area in this top end that I might want to tame down. I don't think I do, but let's check it out. But I want to show it to you because there may be some vocal tracks where you want to do that.
Track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text. Then I send it right back. If you got bass, then you know I might slap. Ain't a track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text. Then I send it right.
You know what? I actually think that we'll keep that. You can see right there the sibilance that we had on taxes. Right there, it kind of pushed down, but for the most part, it just left the vocal untouched. I was pretty conservative here. You know, the range here was less than 2 dB. The attack was fast, the release was fast, but we also had a really small ratio and the softest knee that we could have. So that way, for the most part, we're not losing that brightness of the vocal. We're just kind of taming it down when the sibilance gets a little too much. So let's go ahead and check that out again.
Track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you.
Yep, and so it just kind of gives us that a little bit. So let's go ahead and I'll bypass this and I'll bring it back, and then I'll show you what it sounds like in the track as well.
Track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text. Then I send it right.
All right, and let's go ahead and check this out a little bit with the mix of the song so you can hear what it sounds like in the mix, because you heard it soloed there. You could easily tell there was an improvement as far as, there's more clarity and stuff when we have the multi-band compressor engaged. So let's check this out in the mix. And again, I'll bypass it so you can hear it.
Things seem smarter in my head. Green hair looking like a Sprite can. On God's path with a bike, yeah. Always got dirt on my white vans. Girl, I'm off track. Had to let me vent, but I'm coming right back. Say you coming with when I get my first tat. Think about you, then I run it twice back. Text, yeah. Then I send it right back. If you got bass, then you know I might slap. Ain't a man on my level, on my map. When you give me mine, girl, I pay it like tax, yeah. Faithful to you.
Yeah, and what's cool is we're compressing a lot of frequencies down. We're not boosting too many places. And you can hear as we go in and out of this, things are actually starting to have more clarity and have more brightness. And it's all because we're compressing down some frequencies that we don't want. So again, that's the whole little trick right there for how we use a multi-band compressor on vocals. I use this literally on every vocal mix that I do. I think it's highly effective, and I think this type of plugin should be in your plugin chain when it comes to vocals as well. I think it will make a lot of difference, and you'll definitely see improvements. So I'm hoping that you got a lot out of this tutorial today. Hopefully there's some information that was useful. If you're getting a lot out of this but you want to see more, please feel free to comment below. Let us know what kind of tutorials that you want to see in the future, and Oracle and I can definitely make that happen. We're always trying to find the content that you want to see. If you're liking what you're hearing from me, you can find me everywhere on social media at Realistic Productions. You can find me at the web, realisticproductions.net. You can find my man SoundOracle everywhere at SoundOracle. And if you're looking for the best 808s, the best kicks, the best snares with the craziest loops and samples you can find on the internet right now, go to SoundOracle.net. All right, till next time.